Of all the different brands of anime out there, sci-fi, supernatural, fantasy, isekai, our favourites always have an awesome magic flavour to them. Combine that with the ultimate power trip of an insanely overpowered main character. Whew, there's a lot here, and you've probably seen the popular ones. Today's list brings you some fantastic recommendations that you probably haven't heard of, but you definitely need to get watching. Thanks for joining us today at Animeology. Don't forget to share this along with your fellow fans, and let us know if we've missed some quality recommendations in the comments below. Let's jump right into the top 10 animes with a magic-powered MC. Number 10. Akashic Records of Bastard Magic Instructor. Akashic Records puts a really interesting spin on the high school setting anime, starting off with a focus on these two beautiful students at a famous magic academy. These two gorgeous ladies aim to be the best magic users in the universe and are by far the greatest at their school. Unfortunately, their favourite teacher retires and the comedic replacement enters. Lazy, useless and hopeless. The addition of the Bastard Magic Instructor really ties this harem fantasy anime well. Keep in mind that although the Bastard is not a real teacher, he has an insane level of magical power and used to be a high-level assassin with an extremely interesting and dark past. This anime really brings an interesting spin to the harem genre. The chemistry between the three MCs is really refreshing, and the rich history of the Bastard Magic Instructor keeps us coming back for more. Topics like depression, friendship, relationships, and an epic hero journey. Number 9. Mayo Sensou. Mayo Sensou brings a fantastic blend of fantasy, romance, and a captivating journey that is bound to impress you. A phenomenal watch, but more a shoujo as opposed to the classic seinen or shonen that we usually go for. It's 2021. If it's good, you should definitely check it out. We follow Takeshi, an average high schooler with a mysteriously dark and twisted past. Coming home one day, he comes across a strange girl in a school uniform that he's never seen before. After helping her out, she turns him into a magician. Now, there are some interesting isekai-type elements here. Takeshi learns that the world is actually both normal and filled with magicians. Enrolled in a magic academy, he starts honing and perfecting his magic powers. Much like other shoujos, there is quite a lot of drama and the characters are pretty chatty. The interactions are pretty dynamic and believable, and the road from new magic user to insanely overpowered god is one you should definitely be following. Number 8. Chiquita the Coffin Princess. An interesting combination of action fantasy, Chiquita the Coffin Princess tells the story of a world ravaged by war. Recently ending a 300-year-long war, the new world is trying to rebuild and have divided the spoils of war between the Council of Six Nations. The anime follows the story of Toru, a spy and mastermind during the war, but since the battle has ended, he finds himself out of work and with no use for any of his skills. Luckily enough, he encounters a strange wizard in the forest that travels around in a coffin. Don't worry, it only gets weirder from here. This beautiful white-haired wizard is in danger from a man-eating unicorn, but is saved by our hero Toru. Chiquita the Coffin Princess hires Toru and his sister for an epic journey to scatter the ashes of the old and powerful magical emperor. We learn that the Emperor is actually Chiquita's father and she wishes to give him a proper burial, but parts of him are held by different nations as they wish to harness the old Emperor's insanely strong magical power. Number 7. Misfits of Demon King Academy.
インガル安心しろ根源が消滅しない限り本当の意味で死ぬことはない
A Demon King, Anios, strikes an interesting deal with one of humanity's greatest heroes, Kanon. For the peace of mankind and an end to the war that is destroying the planet, the Demon King sacrifices himself for the betterment of everyone else. Coming back to life 2,000 years later, Anios the Demon King finds the world in a completely different state, with royal pureblood demons at the top with mixed breeds and humans sitting on the bottom of society. The misfit of Demon King Academy puts himself in the perfect position to give the MC a really impressive struggle from the bottom journey, while also being able to offer some very interesting and socially relevant commentary on society and the state of the world. In a world of poverty, struggles and magic, Anios strives to reclaim his old title of Demon King, but first needs to make his way through the Demon King Academy. Number 6. Arafuta. Starting off as a web novel, this work was so loved that it became a manga and anime. You should really check it out because it was really easy to see why this was so well received. A really interesting fantasy harem in a brilliantly thought out isekai world. Arafuta follows the high schooler Hajime, consistently bullied at school for a number of reasons. The whole class gets transported to a magical isekai world. Everyone sent to this fantasy and the magically rich world gets insanely powerful abilities, except Hajime, of course. He actually receives the pretty lame basic power to transmute solid materials, pretty common for craftsmen and blacksmiths, but during one dungeon adventure he gets betrayed and left to die at the bottom of the dungeon. Barely surviving and crafting his own weapons in order to escape, Hajime slowly becomes stronger and stronger, building up his harem and meeting some interesting characters along the way. Man, the sort of raw magic power that Hajime displays later on in this series is truly insane. Number 5. Hagure-Yuusha no Aesthetica. A bit more light-hearted and a lot more traditional, Aesthetica of a rogue hero doesn't really look too innovative, but definitely brings a high level of polish to its core action fantasy roots. A really interesting setting in a world where young men and women would occasionally find themselves randomly transported to a fantasy world full of swords and magic. Only the greatest survive, and those that do are gifted with some impressive magic abilities. A training organisation is set up and helps guide these magic users with their new powers. The story follows Atsuki and a beautiful magic-enabled girl, Miu. Miu is the daughter of the last Dark Lord, a fighter that Atsuki just defeated in combat. A really interesting character dynamic that the anime explores in a very unique way. Definitely worth watching for the chemistry and relationship between the MCs, and of course to see how ridiculously overpowered Atsuki becomes with a little bit of training. Number 4. Unlimited Haibu Koisuke. Definitely magic, but more into the supernatural realm than fantasy, this series follows Koisuke, an ESP or extrasensory user that was betrayed a long time ago. In a world where ESPers are mistreated by humans, Koisuke has a reputation as the saviour of his people. Although not as fun or as light-hearted as some of our other recommendations, this series weaves a really dark and interesting world with an insanely powerful and high-level ESPer who is trying to change the world for his people. This series gets really inspirational and some of the battle scenes are so awesome to watch. The high school arc is fun, but the series really takes off later when the world's backstory slowly starts to get built and the situations start to get really serious. A heavily recommended watch, the anime covers some very heavy themes: injustice, loss, alcoholism, death, and even a bit of politics. Definitely put this on your watch list, you do not want to miss out. Number 3. Collider Code.
でも今は戦闘中だよ。どうして味方同士で。
A brilliant supernatural anime with a focus on action, Quality Ideal Code is more light-hearted and fresh with some of the others on this list, but that helps make it such a great watch. Set in a world torn apart by war between humans and a mysterious enemy referred to as the Unknown, many towns and cities were abandoned due to the invasion. A group of children were evacuated to a cold sleep hibernation type facility and are waking up a few decades later. We learn that these children have developed some impressive supernatural abilities that they call World. Using their powers, the children look to protect Japan and defend the cities from the unknown, eventually taking the battle back to them, determined to fight back and reclaim the planet. A very fun watch. You do get a bleak sense of how impossible the task to fight against the unknown may seem, but the journey through the series really shows the insane strength that the MC has lain beneath the surface. Ichiya is extremely arrogant and confident, but is horrible at communicating. Teaming up with his childhood friend and potential love interest Canaria, don't worry, we won't spoil anything. Just watch it already. Number 2. Charlotte. Charlotte definitely has some funny moments to it, but this series definitely goes into more dramatic elements. Dealing with some heavier and more intense themes, the action is still good, but the interesting character arc and story points are why we love Charlotte so much. Set in a strange alternative reality where this comet called Charlotte passes pretty close to Earth every 75 years, covering the surface with space dust. This space dust has the chance to make young children into insanely powerful superhumans. We follow a young boy with this awesome power to possess another person for 5 seconds. Funnily enough, our MC isn't the traditional hero and actually keeps his awesome power a secret. He uses it to live an extremely carefree life and get grades, avoid bullies, etc. Unfortunately, another magic user at the school, Neo, learns of his powers and she forces him to move to a magic user school for him to hone his powers and protect him from getting exploited by other people. Although the story does go to pretty strange places, Charlotte performs best as an interesting slice of life anime more than anything else. The day-to-day with the character is really fun and enjoyable. It's definitely a comfy watch more than anything, and something that you should be checking out right now. And number 1, Trinity 7. Although Trinity 7 brings a more romantic comedy fantasy harem twist, you should be wary because the sheer magic power of the MC is definitely something you want to keep an eye out for. The story follows Arata Kasuga, a normal guy living a normal life in a quiet, sleepy small town. Nothing special, until the day the Black Sun appears. A huge breakdown phenomenon occurs and destroys his small town, and his childhood friend, the innocent Hajiri, starts fading away. Destroyed by the loss of his friend and family, Arata is totally hopeless. Fortunately, a mage, the gorgeous redhead Lilith Asami, is sent to investigate the strange breakdown phenomenon that destroyed the town and discovers a powerful spell has been cast. Our MC, Arata, decides to become a mage himself. He attends an academy and trains in hopes of becoming a powerful magician in order to learn the truth behind the Black Sun and save his childhood friend. This is a really fantastic watch on all ends. The fighting is good, but the character development and motivations really had us coming back for more. Combined with a really rich and interesting world backstory, we were glued to the screen from the very first episode.